How is everyone doing? I think Lauren's put everyone on mute, so we probably can't hear you. But
it's not a very good conversation.
Well,
very one-sided.
We'll wait for a minute or two for other people to join in. Hi there, hello. We'll wait for a minute or two for other people to join in, but we'll crack on because we've got about 30 minutes. And for those guys that have joined in the past, thank you again for joining. For you guys who are the first ones to join, thank you for joining. Just a little bit about our digital triage sessions with Honest London. So I'm AJ, my co-founder Lauren. We basically set up Honest, which is a comms digital marketing agency, from the idea of wanting to just do an agency that was around honest, straightforward, decent communications, basically, having both worked in agency, having worked in-house, and both been on the journalist side as well. We kind of put all 360 together to offer our clients just something decent and also to treat people the way you want to be treated. So Lauren's going to share the presentation with everyone, and then we'll go through today's session. But just so you guys are aware, this session is all about influencer marketing and the red flags you should be looking out for when considering influencer marketing. So when Lauren's got it on full screen, we'll crack through. But we've both had experience with influencer marketing. In agency, I've dealt with, television, celebrities, etc., who we forget in today's world are also influencers, because we're always stuck with Instagram and seeing Instagram as influencers. But Lauren, you've also worked with many an influencer in the past as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've worked with a mixture of, I've had the actual experience to work within a influencer agency, along with working with what you'd call a celebrity, doing their marketing, their social media, to even just giving them general advice and what I'd recommend to them, basically just making sure they're looking like their best selves in public and not making any key mistakes, because it's so easy now. So you've got to be very, very smart when it comes to the public eye.
So I guess together, Lauren and I, we've kind of collaborated because we understand all facets of influencer marketing and comms. And again, we're learning every day as well. But so as an agency, we offer everything from strategic planning, comms, PR, PPC, SEO, everything that you'd imagine, and have basically culminated our experiences together. So today's session, or today's workshop, is essentially that: red flags that you should look out for when considering influencer marketing. So what exactly is an influencer? And again, we're not teaching you stuff you already know, but I guess our definition of what an influencer is somebody who effectively has the power, the purchasing decisions of others, basically how they influence others because of their authority in whatever business they're in, their knowledge, their position, and their particular relationship with that audience. I suppose a large following within a distinct niche, whether it's travel, whether it's food or fitness, who they're actively engaged with. That's essentially what an influencer is, or what they do. And I suppose the size of the influencer and the following depends on the size of his or her topic. And obviously, we all have Instagram. I'd be surprised if nobody does. But they all have a huge following, some in the millions and some not so. So I guess the next screen kind of gives you an idea of the type of influencers that we have across the spectrum.
And something to add on to that, from working with influencers, it's quite interesting that more and more brands are starting to go for the micro and nano influencers rather than go for mega and macro. First of all, for monetary reasons, because a cost for a post can be in the thousands. It's incredibly expensive, but more for the audience type. So for example, with a micro influencer, you're normally looking at, say, an example, a London food blogger who goes around just taking photos of eating out. Sounds like an amazing deal, to be honest. I wish I was one. And you'll get restaurants that would rather work with a micro influencer that normally has the right type of target audience and would probably bring a lot more to their business than a mega influencer who would have following from all over the world with zero interest in a little restaurant back in London. So it can be quite interesting with what influencers could be more of value to a business.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to go over is just some red flags. So the first one for me would definitely be if they're reaching out to you for business. This is quite a big red flag in my opinion. It hasn't often ended well. I don't know if anyone knows this pretty hilarious but very famous influencer story. It's about a cafe in Ireland, Dublin, called the White Moose Cafe, and an influencer called Elle Darby. Now, Elle Darby is the influencer who reached out to the cafe/hotel, and she was essentially just asking for a free hotel over the Valentine's Day period, 5 free nights. So quite a lot of free nights. There's a lot of money she's asking for already. And if you can see, here's her email she sent out that the White Moose Cafe put online. They scribbled out their details, but people could see through it and see who it was. Unknown if that was on purpose. As you can see here, I thought I would just show you why you should ignore an email if you get something like this. So, for example, the fact it starts with "Hi there," zero research into who they're reaching out to, not a really good start. For me, I would be put off immediately. And then it says "your stunning hotel." So there's no name of the hotel. This is being sent clearly to multiple hotels. They just want a free stay somewhere in Ireland. Zero interest in your hotel. They just want the free stay. So if you did let them stay, would they be really doing a good job in promoting you? Probably not. I worked with Universal Orlando in Florida, and it's been amazing for them. So this is, I mean, I don't know how Orlando coached prior to influencers, but according to her, it's been amazing. But where's the evidence? Where's the numbers? Where's the attached follower information? Where's the engagement stats, geographical stats? Is there any footage, imagery evidence, testimonials? Are you going to believe that? I know I wouldn't. So also with the White Moose Cafe, just on another obscure part, they've got a very, very successful social media platform themselves. And anyone who would just Google them, just a simple Google would have them come up. And it's insane that there was no mention of that, which kind of proves there was just zero research or thought put into this email. So yeah, point of the story, if you are a brand that influencers would be interested in using and you get an email like this, I would steer clear and just say politely, no, thank you, and move on.
The thing is, working in agency as well as in-house, I mean, I've had so many people come to me from an influencer point of view, in inverted commas, asking for exactly the same. So you get so many wanting with the hope that they'll get a freebie. And actually, you've got to be really careful, especially now.
Yeah. So another point, low reach or low views compared to the others of their size. So what I mean by this is on average, so the typical reach that Instagram defines as total accounts to be viewed by a piece of content. So that's what reach means. It's just how many people have viewed a piece of content, is about 20 to 25% of their overall following. So that's quite an easy way to evaluate and gauge whether an influencer is legit or if they're purchasing followers or they're faking engagements. It's quite interesting. And this was quite a famous story. I don't know if you saw it, but an Instagram star with 2 million followers couldn't sell 36 t-shirts. And it happens. The reason for this, similar to the London restaurant story, that example I provided, just because they have 2 million followers, are these followers real? Have they been purchased? I mean, I just did a brief bit of research before today, just have a little look. And for, I think it was like £600, you can buy 800,000 fake followers. Like, it's very easy to get up to that number of people. So you've got to be very careful. There's so many people faking it. And yeah, it just shows the lack of interest in this person that they could only sell, well, they couldn't even sell 36. I don't know if AJ has anything you want to add on to this.
I was going to say when it comes to just making sure whether they're, the sort of the low reach of views compared. I mean, there are so many, robots, and there's so many ways of increasing your followership that at some point Instagram's gonna block those anyway. You can easily tell, and I think we'll come into that at the moment. But yeah, if an Instagram star with 2 million followers can't sell 36 t-shirts, what do they really say to you? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
So next thing is another easy way to spot if you just get an email and you just want to have a quick little look at their account is, do they get the same number of likes and comments on every single photo? So I'm just going to throw myself under the bus and use my account as an example. I don't want to call anyone out, but authentic accounts, if they've got a real following, they're not going to have the same number of likes. They're not going to have the same amount of comments. It's just not possible. So it varies on the time of day that you post it, what's actually posted itself. Reach and impressions just fluctuate, especially with Instagram's algorithm now. Everyone's still trying to figure out what it is. And as you can see here, like the range of my likes varies. Unfortunately, no one cared about my tree. I thought it was a very nice tree, but no one cared. But yeah, you can just see the mix. There's just a huge variation in the likes of my account. I mean, I break a few rules. I don't sort of post similar things. My one's very personal, and just post my own life rather than food or semi-related. So it fluctuates a lot. Oh, thank you, Ryan, for saying you love my tree. I think it's a nice tree. It's on my way to my tube station. Anything to add to AJ?
No, I don't think so. I think, there has to be a variety. I mean, my Instagram is more dedicated around travel and lifestyle because I, as a freelance journalist, do a lot of food and travel, so mine's focused on that. But again, like yours, Lauren, I think there has to be variety. I mean, some of my posts have 1,000 likes. Some of them have 3 or 4 likes. It's dependent, but you've got to have that variety. Otherwise, if you've got 30 likes every single time, you've got to think to yourself, yeah, of course.
Because there's lots of apps where you can download and pay for likes, which I don't know who can afford that. But yeah, and then just normally offer it in like 500 likes, 1,000 likes, and they just come in blocks. I don't know why people do it, because it just damages your account, but just be aware. So the next point is large sudden increases in following, large sudden decreases in following, basically just continuing on from purchasing followers. So good news is there are actually tools that you can use to track whether their audience health is legit, if it's real. So I like to use NeoReach and Hyper. A free one is Social Blade. It's very popular for YouTube, but I don't think a lot of people realize that you can also track Instagram's health. So really recommend, if you get any email from an influencer, or if you're thinking about reaching out to an influencer, to just pop their account on Social Blade and just see if there's any big jaggers anywhere or peaks of following. I mean, there could be the chance that they're maybe promoted somewhere, that happens, but if it's from the beginning stages of their account, you can just see they're going up and up and up. I'm very suspicious. But yeah, just look at that growth over time, ensure that the increase is more steady. That's a very much more realistic way of growing as an influencer. It's very rare people do get drastic jumps. If there is a lot of jumps. Oh yeah, carry on.
Yeah. No, I was gonna add to that. So there's one app there's hundreds out there, but there's one called Gramista, which basically does that. I mean, there's lots of people trying to use bots at the moment, and there's trying to be as many natural bots to increase the influencers' growth, and it's really strange. And we did a test once we had 2 accounts, and we tested one with natural growth, which again, it takes time to grow an account for an influencer, and the other one in the space of 4 to 5 months went from 100 to almost 6,000-7,000, which it's strange. And then what tends to happen is Facebook will block you. So therefore, as an influencer, it becomes quite problematic, and you can't come out of that.
Yeah, if you start purchasing followers, like you'll lose things like you'll never get verified, so you'll never get a blue tick. So if you bought them at the beginning and then regret it, and you're actually building your natural following where you've stopped buying them, you won't get the benefits. It really can mess you up with the algorithm as well. If you have a big bot following, it's very unlikely that they'll put you at the top.
And also, it's a good point about the blue. It's also a good point about the blue tick, because you see brands that have, 100,000 followers, but they don't have the blue tick, and you've got to think to yourself, well, actually, if you're a legit brand or a legit influencer, why have you not gone through that process? So you've got to do your due diligence. That's for sure.
Definitely. So inconsistent and off niche posts, I kind of got ahead of myself. I mentioned this earlier, but it's true. Like, the value of consistency, if you are an influencer or if you're looking to use an influencer, is so important. I mean, I know for myself, with the brands we've worked with, if we want an influencer, the first thing I'll look up naturally is, I mean, AJ, we did a project where we're looking for a vegan influencer, weren't we? And what do you Google?
Absolutely.
Vegan influencer. It's just what you'd look up, and then we found someone, you used them, they were great. But it's key to be consistent. And if there's someone who just has a high following but just posts about anything, they're probably not going to do your brand that well, because the following won't match your brand. Whereas this vegan influencer, she only posted about vegan food, vegan restaurants in London, and it worked perfectly. It matched up ideally. So yeah, it's very important to choose the right influencer, and one that really matches your brand and is generally interested in what you have to offer.
But to your point earlier, Lauren, as well, I think, when we take the vegan one as an example, we could have found somebody with hundreds of thousands of followers, but really have no depth of knowledge in terms of what they're talking about. And I think for a brand, from my experience, a lot of the travel brands, when I've been on press trips with influencers, you've got to really bring on people who are passionate about what they're talking about and their subject matter, because that's what's going to enhance your brand. And I think you've got to separate the difference between, are you wanting to sell your product, for example? And if it's all about mass and numbers, then that's one thing. But actually, if it's about quality and consistency, that's another thing. So you've got to bear that in mind.
No, 100%. So this is a bit of a tricky one, but checking if their ads that they have on their account are already real. I remember seeing some, I wish I print screen them. It was a professional footballer, who posted a photo of shoes and said, "Thank you so much for these shoes, #ad." But then, I think it must have got deleted because it was just quite embarrassing. But the brand underneath commented saying, "Thank you for your purchase," just to basically say, we didn't send you these for free. But just be careful with people pretending to have ads and thinking that they're legit. Again, they love to, for some reason, I think it makes them feel impressive, makes them look good and genuine and cool. It's very hard to check for it. Like, there is no concrete way to check if it's a real ad, but these are a few tips that I would recommend that I look out for on myself. Check if the brand follows the influencer. I mean, any brand that I've worked with, if we've worked with an influencer, the first thing we'll do is follow them to build that relationship, and they always follow back. It's just something you do. And if they don't follow them, bit of a red flag straight away. Don't be fooled by a #ad or adding paid partnership. Anyone can add paid partnership, anyone. It means nothing. And if it's a big brand, they're not going to have time to check or care if someone's doing a fake ad. And it's free promotion for them, so why would they mind? Check if the brand has done influencer promotions before. See if there's any reposts. Did they comment and like on their posts? Follow them. Again, just check and see if it matches up with what this influencer is doing. So say they have regrammed a photo of someone promoting Dove deodorant. They work with a lot of influencers. They always regram them. They always comment and like on their posts as well. So if you see someone promoting a Dove deodorant, there's no comment or like, they haven't been regrammed, they're not followed, you can safely say it's probably fake. But yeah, just be careful, just keep an eye out on it. It takes a bit of time, but I think it's worth it in the long run if you're going to use them for your brand.
It's definitely worth it, because otherwise you don't want to get yourself into trouble when there's, as I say, due diligence is so important. It's better to do your homework beforehand.
Definitely. So what happens if you haven't got time to check? So this is something that I really recommend doing. I've done it a few times for a few brands. So this is just a complete made up example, just so you can figure out how to work it. So say you own a spa hotel and an influencer's reached out to you asking for a free or discounted stay, similar to the El Derby story. Now, in response, what I would suggest is providing the influencer with a unique coupon code for them to post while they're staying at the hotel, and just give them a deal dependent on how many followers they actually have. Just say if it's redeemed 10 times, they can use the hotel stay, for the use of a hotel stay, my apologies, and you'll refund the influencer that they've spent to stay at the hotel originally, and or pay an agreed amount that you may have agreed. Now, what you're going to get is only genuine influencers who will agree to this deal, because they know if their target audience, well, they're going to know if their following are going to be those that are interested in a hotel stay. So say a good travel influencer, they might be confident and know that their following would probably use the hotel. For someone who knows they've purchased their followers, they have the wrong target audience, say it's a hotel in London, but they know their following is mainly in Spain, for example, or they just have little to no genuine engagement. It's kind of a win-win situation for yourself. So if it works, fantastic, you get amazing exposure for free or your agreed amount. And if it doesn't work, you've saved yourself the aggravation of it all. Anything to add, AJ?
No, I think that's good.
Right. So reply smart when you do get a request for an influencer. So what I can also provide, we'll leave our emails in the comment box. In fact, I'll do that now. If you do want an example email response to an influencer, do get in touch and we'll happily provide you with one. We do have a template. But respond asking for reports of their demographics, so their following, their age, their activity, their gender, a heat map of where their following actually resides, and just determine if they would actually visit your business. I would always recommend asking for screenshots. They're much, much harder to fake than, say, an Excel spreadsheet, which I have actually received a few times, people thinking you're going to believe an Excel spreadsheet. As you can see at the bottom here, these are an example of a client. He kindly let us share them. And as you can see here, it's in Norwegian, apologies. And you can see his age group. You can see whether it's male, female following, his most popular countries. And you can see his gender following, whether it's like actually growing or not. As you can see, it's gone up quite a fast amount. And also just a nice, easy way of seeing all his likes in a grid. So if you receive something like this, you can really, really fairly trust it and feel confident that they're genuine. But yeah, it's crucial just to get it spot on.
Yeah, I was going to say about roughly 10 years ago, I used to be a blogger for the Telegraph, and the followership and the reach used to be on average about 280 to 300,000, which you'd have to go to the advertising team to verify that. Now that the tools are so intelligent, I don't think anybody would have an excuse to send over an Excel document or to draw up a rough set of numbers. I think, if you want to work with somebody, especially if you're going to pay them, I think this is the bare minimum that they should be able to send you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, if an influencer is reaching out to you, I would expect it to already be included in the email. They shouldn't even have to be asked for it.
Absolutely.
It's a business deal at the end of the day, and it's just red flags. Like if you feel immediately like something doesn't seem right, your gut is probably correct. Sorry, my arrow's disappeared. So this is a big one. Do you want to take this on?
Yeah.
Let's have a chat.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I think the question on everyone's mind is, well, then, okay, during this pandemic, how does influencer marketing affect us during the coronavirus? What do we do? What do we look out for? And how can we work with people? Well, I think Lauren and I kind of discussed this because we've had a few issues with some clients and some brands, and we've tried to forewarn them. So the biggest one has been payments, actually. And what we'd advise is to be mindful when influencers are very adamant about getting paid. And I'm not saying that influencers shouldn't, but I think during this pandemic, when they get very edgy in terms of wanting to get paid, you've got to suggest and think whether that's going to be them being considerate about the brand or not, or whether they're just focused on the money element of things. And essentially, you've got to be mindful that they could potentially devalue your brand image. And that's something you don't want to do. I know we're all struggling at the moment in terms of individuals being on furlough. Some people have been let go, and an income is important. But right now, you've got to turn it around to see whether you can build a relationship, because essentially that's what it is. It's a relationship with the influencer and the brand. The other key thing is working pro bono. That sort of comes away from working with the bigger influencers, people that you've already selected. I think it provides an opportunity for these influencers to work with you guys, or the brands that you may be working with during these times, to potentially show support and build on those future collaborations. I think it's important because it illustrates trust and quality, and that's what you want from your influencers. They're all busy. They all have, some of them have contract deals, some of them, are waiting for their deals to come through, but actually a lot of them are really, really struggling. So I think, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, kind of should be the way forward, because they're not in it for the greed, but they're genuine, and they should have an interest and passion for the brand that they want to work for. Because at the end of the day, the influencers aren't there just to get their freebie. The influencers are there, like a journalist, to do a job. And as a brand, you want to make sure that you give them the right platform to be able to do that. Laura and I have been saying there's so many examples, isn't there, in the ways that you could do that.
Yeah, it's countless.
I mean, there's been sort of live how-to sessions, recipes, blog takeovers, interviews, Q&As, you name it. There's so many opportunities where, you can really collaborate well with an influencer. But if you are going to do things like blog takeovers, just make sure that you have a very strict guideline so that you're in control of anything insensitive, so that's not published. But I mean, if you take a brand, prime example, I think the Bicester Village shopping collection and I think it was Selfridges, Liberty, beg your pardon, they both did a collaboration where they were doing live recordings with musicians, interior designers, food journalists, and that really works well because they're trusted, and at the same time, when it's a monetary thing, it's about building those relationships, because that's what we're all trying to do right now.
Definitely.
Anything to add in there, Lauren, do you think?
No, I think you smashed that. Okay, no, I think you've covered absolutely everything with it. It's just keeping in mind, just making sure both of you, like you said, is on the same level of looking not insensitive in a time like this, because
yeah, so it's really important. I mean, guys, I know you guys, you're listening, and we want you to sort of, come to us with any questions, and we'll try and help you. But I think it's really important that, if you guys are fully aware of how this works, that's great. But we just want to be mindful that if you are engaging with influencers and you're having any problems, we're here to help. So just let us know. So I guess, without further ado, any questions from anybody at this stage?
Yeah, feel free to pop them into the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer. I think we got a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Alternatively, if you don't have any questions, but anything does crop up, if you drop myself and Lauren an email, which has been sent in the chat box, we'll come back to you with any help. And if there's anything you're working on at the moment where you think, actually, is this the right thing to do? Again, feel free. I'm more than happy to help.
Brilliant. Oh, you're welcome, Ian. Sylvia, thank you so much.
Right, we've got a question. Okay, there we go. So, what is your thought on influencer giveaways and the sudden increase of followers during competitions? Okay. Should we dive into this one, Lauren? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I think giveaways and sudden increase. I think, to be honest, right now, I don't think giveaways should be something you should consider. I think you've got to be really sensitive in terms of what that brand is and what you're actually giving away. I think the sudden increase of following during a competition, I don't know, Lauren, what do you think about that? I mean, in my experience, I've never had a sudden surge after, you know, a particular giveaway. I mean, it's increased slightly, but then sometimes you get those peaks and troughs where all of a sudden somebody enters, but then people follow and people unfollow, but that's kind of the natural course, really.
Yeah, so you get often a giveaway that will say follow and like our latest photo for our giveaway. So you'll get very temporary followers who, I don't know, I'm not a fan of a giveaway, if I'm honest. I just think it's just someone trying to get a freebie rather than having any interest in your brand. I don't think it's a very strong way to use an influencer. I think the strongest way to use an influencer, if you're going to pay for them or have someone promoting your product, is to make it look genuine and make it look real. You have to obviously provide that it is an ad. Just have it so it looks natural rather than someone posing really awkwardly with a glass. They're like, buy this. It just, if you want a free glass, follow this account. It's just very fake. I wouldn't go for it. It's not my cup of tea.
Right, we've got a couple. We'll do 2 more questions, and then anything else, please feel free to email us. So Sylvia, yep, we're more than happy to share the deck. If you want to drop us an email and we'll share it, we'll send it to you. That's not a problem at all. Okay, and another one is there any app that we can use to find influencers?
Sorry.
Go on, go for it.
I personally don't use an app, but there are many different brands. You have to often pay for them. It's almost like an agency central thing where you have to search up. But for me, the best success I've ever had with an influencer is just simply searching for them. I'll often do the casual Google, like I said, like a vegan influencer. But I think doing the groundwork yourself, you're going to probably find much better options. Even look at your own following, see if you've got someone with like 10,000 or whatever followers that are actually already interested in your brand. I wouldn't recommend just using a agency type thing. It's going to be very unauthentic again.
Yeah. And then the final question, Sylvia, again. So what do we think about micro influencers, i.e. non-famous, passionate people who could have an authentic voice? How could brands engage with these types of people? So I'll answer that because I've kind of been in that situation. So I, for the past 10, 11 years, have freelanced as a journalist for the Telegraph, Metro, City AM, New York Times, etc. So I had a private Instagram account basically, and then over the few years that kind of grew to about 5,000, 5,500. And I started getting brands engage with me, particularly travel brands. So I used to do a lot of work with them, and I think there are people there, and you know they're quite easy to find when you search on Instagram. And for me, it was, I mean, I'm passionate about food and travel, so I was able to dedicate real stories within my Instagram and also replicate that on and press as well. So I think there's a great way of doing it. And I guess the last trip that I did with influencers was back in July to Tel Aviv in Israel. And all the influencers that were present had no less than 10,000 followers. So it's done. And I think some big brands are really looking into that. So yeah, there's ways of doing that for sure.
Amazing. Well, I think that's all our time up. But if you do have any questions, we'll be happy to email you, get in touch. More than happy to help you
out. Okay, perfect. Well, look, guys, if we haven't answered your questions, drop us an email and we'll come back to you. But thank you so much all, and look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Lovely speaking with you.